Hello everyone, welcome to our group presentation. Today we will cover two chapters, which is chapter 6 and chapter 7. So let's start with chapter 6, the American Society, Families and Households. I'm Han, and now let's begin with the first learning objective today, the nature and influence of American households. So in this learning objectives, there are quite a lot of definitions that we have to cover. The first is about households. So household is all the people who occupy a housing unit. And household, inside of household, we have two types of households. The first one is a family household. One is one having at least two members related by birth, marriage, or adoption, and one of whom is the householder. So the householder could be male or female. Another type of household is non-family household, which is a householder living alone or exclusive with others whom he or she is not related. And inside the family household, we have two branches. The first is a traditional family, which is typically families which combine by include opposite sex couple and their children. This could be their own children or adopted children and living in a same house. And a step family is a married couple with at least one child under 18, and this child have to be a stepchild, which means a child of their previous marriage.
Hi, I'm Fungi, and this is the second learning objective. It's about the household life cycle. So researchers have developed several models of the household life cycle. All models are based on the age and marital status of the adult members of the household and the presence and age of children. So each category in the household life cycle poses a set of problems that decision makers must solve. And maybe as the marketers, we will know what products we should advertise to the target segments. And the first group is single one, which consists of young unmarried individuals. This group is basically the unmarried members of Gen Y, as said in the textbook, but I believe that Gen Z gradually belongs and dominates this group. So it is a time of growth and change that is both exciting and positive and scary and painful because they are beginning to experience and learn to become more adaptive and independent. And the next group is young couples. They have no children, and marriage is much more likely for the 25 to 34 years old than it is for the under 25 crowd. Savings, household furnishings, major appliances, and more comprehensive insurance coverage are among the new areas of problem recognition and decision making to which a young married couple must give serious consideration. And the next group is fullness one, young married with children, because they have children, so naturally new purchases in the areas of baby clothes, furniture, food, and healthcare products occur in this stage. And the next group is single parent one, about young single parents. So birth and adoption by singles is increasingly common. However, divorce continues to be a significant part of American society. The younger members of this group, particularly those who have never been married, tend to have a limited education and a very low income. So their purchases focus on getting by and on-time and energy-saving products and services that are not overly expensive. Next, the middle-aged single category is made up of people who have never been married and those who are divorced and have no child-rearing responsibilities. So this group is primarily the Gen X and baby boomers. Although older Gen Y consumers are moving into this category as well, they often live alone and have higher incomes than the younger singles. Also, middle-aged singles are likely to have more money to spend on their lifestyles, and they are willing to indulge themselves, like owning a luxury automobile or traveling often. And emptiness one, middle-aged married with no children. These households represent second marriages in which children from a first marriage are not living with the parent. This group also includes married couples whose children have left home. They also have money to spend on dining out, expensive vacation, and time-saving services. So they are a prime market for financial services and heavy purchases of upscale children's products as gifts for grandchildren and friends' children. And Anne will present the next part.
It is with Anne, and I will finish the remaining 5 household life cycle in this learning objective. So, in the middle age, there is a group which called the delayed fullness one, which means that although married with young children, they delayed having children until they are in the mid-30s. So the biggest factor that differentiates the delayed fullness one from the younger new parents is income, which is equivalent to more money spent on childcare and other household expense. For example, those parents who have kids younger than 6 years old consume more expensive formula milk, which comes from foreign brands instead of Dutch Lady or About Grow, which costs only 100 to 200 Vietnam dong. The second group is fullness 2, which means that the middle-aged married with children at home. And the major factor that distinguish the previous one with is the age of children. Family finds itself consuming more and in larger quantities and heavily influenced by the kids, especially for the extracurricular courses, healthcare, meals, snacks, and free time vacation. Parents have to balance between time for work and family caring. The next one is single parent too, which means that the middle-aged single with children at home. One of the biggest barriers is that single parents aged 35 to 64 with children have to face is financial pressure. The demand is the same as the previous group. However, the single parent often lacks some or all of the financial, emotional, and time support that the presence of a spouse generally provides. There is a special case where a minor group of prosperous or just financially secure women who are more likely to adopt children and raise them on their own. The next one is for older married couples with no children, or we call them empty nest too. They have no children, and this allows this group to spend more money for their own, especially for healthcare and traveling. So there is a potential market for nursing homes, resort, and anti-aging supplements, especially for women. The last group is older single, and there are two categories in this group, which are single by circumstance and single by choice. The former is those who have their partner pass away and spend less on or enjoy life less than the latter one.
Hi, I'm Phương, and now I will present about learning objective 3, which will be the family decision making. So as marketers, we should understand that there is a bias in user, and we should know how to differentiate the two terms in order to target the right audience. So family decision making is the process by which decisions that directly or indirectly involve two or more family members are made, and they often compare with organizational behavior. However, in the case of family, there are no criteria or goals, and they are often seen as irrational behaviors. So the family purchase role, as you can see in the figure 6.3, involves 6 total roles. Family decision-making has always been categorized as husband or wife dominant. However, until recently, the influence of children has been noted to have a sustainable amount on the family purchase decision. So as you can see in the slide, the initiators will be the parent and children, and the marketer needs to bring communication information in both taste and image to the influencer, who will be the children. So for example, if I want to buy a phone, the marketer should visualize how I will use the phone in my head. And they will bring information to my parent involve the benefits and how I will use the phone. For them will be the information gatherers. And both the children and the parent would come together to make a decision. And then after that, the purchaser will be the parents and the user will be the children. So this is the determinants of family purchase role. Conflict with family dynamic due to the cultural differences can affect the purchase decision of family. And several personal characteristics have an effect on the influence individual will have on purchase decision, education and income, personality, for example. This is the 6 basic approach that individuals use to resolve purchase conflicts. So using my mom and dad, for example, when my mom wants to buy a perfume, both her and dad will use basically all this approach to try to win the argument.
Hello everybody, I'm Huyền, and now I will present the fourth learning objective of the chapter 6, Consumer Socialization and Household Roles. We will answer 4 questions in this section. The first one is the consumer socialization definition. It is the process by which young people acquire skills, knowledge, and attitudes relevant to their functioning as consumers in the market. And secondly, how do family influence consumer socialization? This question can be answered by 3 bases: direct instrumental training, modeling, and meditation. Firstly, instrumental training occurs when a parent or sibling specifically and directly attempts to bring about certain responses to reasoning or reinforcement. The next is modeling. This occurs when a child learns appropriate or inappropriate consumption behaviors by observing others. And meditation relates to a parent answering a child's initial interpretation of or respond to a marketing or other stimulus. Now we will come to the third problem. The consumer socialization contains. Consumer socialization deals with the learning of consumer skills, which are the capability necessary for purchase to occur, such as the understanding about money, budgeting, product evaluation. The next is consumption-related preferences. These are the knowledge, attitudes, and values that cause people to attach differential evaluations to products, brands, and retail outlets. Finally, consumption-related attitude is third category, relate to the cognitive and affective orientation toward marketplace stimuli such as advertisement, salespeople, warranties, etc. And finally, we will move to a very important part of this learning objective, consumer socialization progress. This progress includes 5 stages. The first stage begins by observing parents. During this stage, children will make sensory contact with the marketplace and begin to form mental image. This stage will end when children understand that a visit to the market may produce rewards. Second stage is making requests. In this stage, children begin to requesting items in the stores by pointing, gesturing, and making statements. In the later months, they begin to make requests for items seen on televisions. The third stage is making selection. Children will actually get an item of themselves without assistance and soon begin to remember the location, and they will be allowed to go there independently. The fourth stage is making assisted purchases. Children will learn to value money given as a means to acquire things. They are now become the primary consumer. The final stage is making independent purchase. At this stage, children can make a purchase without a parent to oversee it. That's the end of my part, and I will move to the learning objective 5.
Next, I'm going to elaborate on marketing to children, and there are two reasons why we have to take into account children. Firstly, children are a large and growing market. According to MediaSmart, it influenced the following among other parents' purchases: preferred choice about 90% of time, lunch choices 95%, where to go for casual family meals 98%, clothing purchase 95%, etc. It's substantiate that children play a vital role that marketers have to emphasize because they have a huge impact on the parents who purchase for them. The second reason is prime loyalty developed at this age may reduce return for the whole year later. Children make more of their buying decision at the age of 8, and are telling statistics from better research. And children can often receive and recognize the name about at the age of 3 to 4, even before they know how to read. However, marketing to children is fraught with ethical concern. The limited ability of younger children to receive information and to make informed purchase decisions is a problematic issue because they don't have enough knowledge and information to know which one is good and which is not. Secondly, it could reduce undesirable value in the children, result in inappropriate diets, and cause some unhealthy level of family conflicts. Like some estimates state that children would now spend more time watching television advertising rather than spend in class for their entire schooling. Therefore, marketers can apply child psychology and market research to better understand them, and who can understand the want and motivation of the youth to give the best advertising to them.
Now let's move to this chapter 7, group influences on consumer behaviors. And now I will cover the first learning objective, reference group influence. So what is a reference group? It is simply a group that an individual uses as a guide to for behavior in a specific situation. And a reference groups could be your family members or schoolmates and even fan clubs of BTS or Blackpink. And to classify group, there are 4 criteria. The first is membership. For example, I'm a member of Global Pathway online Facebook group, and other student could be a member of Western Sydney's University group. The second criteria is strength of social tie. So in reference group could be divided into primary group, which is your family and your friends. Those are very close to you. And secondary group can include your lecturer and your neighbor, who is not as close as your primary group. The third criteria is type of contact. We have direct contact and indirect contact. So direct contact is communicates with face-to-face, and indirect contact is like interact via an online platform like Zoom or Google Meet. The last criteria is attraction, and we have the definition for attraction. So it is like attraction refers to the desirability that membership in a given group has for the individual. We have 2 types of desirability. First one is negative desirability, which is as known as its associated reference group. So this is a group that you don't want to belong to, or like you dislike this group. For example, some traditional men don't like wearing don't like dressing some clothes that have pink because they think that pink is represent for female dress. And another type of desirability is aspiration reference groups, which is the group that you really want to become. A group that include people that you really want to become, for example, your favorite football players. And now we will move on with the next learning objective, which is consumption subcultures.
Coming to the second learning objective is about types of groups. So what are consumption subcultures? A consumption subculture is a distinctive subgroup of society that self-selects on the basis of a shared commitment to a particular product class, brand, or consumption activity. These groups have an identifiable hierarchical social structure, a set of shared beliefs or values, unique jargon, rituals, and modes of symbolic expression. So they are reference groups of their members, as well as those who aspire to join or avoid them, like K-pop, cosplay, Asian, LGBTQI, and each had a set of self-selecting members. Consumption subcultures based on activity obviously are markers for the requirements of the activity itself, like fan clubs of K-pop idols, but these groups develop rituals and modes of symbolic communication that often involve other products or services. Fashion from this subculture includes sporty streetwear, bandanas, and outfits, or maybe anything that his or her idols use or become ambassador for that products, they will seek and buy it. About brand communities. A brand community is a non-geographically bound community based on a structured set of social relationships among owners of a brand and the psychological relationship they have with the brand itself, the product in use, and the firm. So one of the best examples for brand communities is the Lego community. Customers love to have a say in the development of the products they enjoy, and the Lego ideas community gives its customer that power. By allowing members to submit their product ideas and launching contests, brand communities can add value to the ownership of the product and build intense loyalty. Besides, brand communities create value through sets of activities or practices that create brand engagement. So 4 categories of activities and an example of each relating to the mini corporate brand are shown in the table 7.1. And about online communities and social networks. An online community is a community that interacts over time around a topic of interest on the internet. So it moves beyond mere interactions to include an affective or emotional attachment to the online group. This interaction can take place in various forms, including online message boards and discussion group blogs, as well as corporate and non-profit websites. These groups develop unique vocabularies, antics, and means for dealing with behaviors deemed inappropriate. An online social network site is a web-based service that allows individuals to construct a public or semi-public profile within a bounded system, articulate a list of other users with whom they share a connection, view their list of connections and those made by others within the system. So it takes many forms like Facebook or YouTube. So online communities and social networks are attractive to marketers for a number of reasons like in this picture. But consumers don't just want entertainment or marketing. They want content that is relevant and useful for them. So here are a few general guiding principles have emerged that to be transparent, to be a part of the community, to take advantage of the unique capabilities of each venue. So the next learning objective is presented by Fung.
I'm Phương, and now I will present about the references group influences on the consumption process. So reference group influence can take 3 forms: informational, normative, and identification. Informational influence occurs when an individual uses the behaviors and opinion of reference groups members and potentially useful bits of information. So for example, members of a soccer club will ask each other what type, what brand of shoes should they buy, for example. Next is normative influence, also called utilitarian influence, occurs when an individual fulfills group expectation to get a direct reward or to avoid a sanction. So using the same example as before the soccer club. So, for example, an individual will use a spray to make his body smell feel better after each game in order to avoid being ridiculed by his teammates about being smelly or dirty. And finally is the identification influence, or the value expressive influence, occurs when individuals have internalized the group value and norms. So for example, when you're in a class and you saw several members of your class using Apple devices, you also try to use Apple devices as well. So the consumption situation determinant is involving 5 categories, as you can see in the figure 7.3. Self-visible usage and using Apple user tend to stick together and then create a high prevalence of product to group and create a high degree of reference group influence. And people with low individual self-confidence tend to looking for other opinions about what type or what product they should buy, and strong individual commitment to a group. So for example, when I truly believe in supporting the brain cancer disease, and I will join a group that's supporting and bringing benefits to the brain cancer people. And in the case of the group that will call me to support in terms of value and in terms of money, how much I will definitely do it. I will definitely bring my services to them. And the final thing is the non-necessary item. The table 7.2, as you can see, the group influence is strongest when the use of a product or brand is visible to the group, and reference group influence typically affects only the aspect involving category or brand, for example, that are visible to the group, and reference group influence is higher the less often necessary an item is. The final factor that affects the degree of reference group influence is the individual confidence in the project situation.
Hello, now we'll come to the learning objectives for of chapter 7. That is the within group communication and the importance of word of mouth communication to marketers. First of all, we need to note that communication within groups is a major source of information about certain products. Information is communicated within group either directly through word of mouth communication or directly through observation. Word of mouth involves individuals share information with other individuals in a verbal form, including face-to-face, on the phone, and over the internet. Word of mouth through personal sources such as family and friends interested more than marketer-based messages and can therefore have a critical influence on consumer decisions and business success. Just look at the figures on the left side. We can see that most of the statistic figures of the word of mouth impacts on users are over 50%, which means that people are really in on this form of marketing. And as for example, for this use of communication is Netflix. They use word of mouth marketing to make binge watching popular. With its organic tagline Netflix and chill, the company promoted on social media, and that has become a huge success. However, also noted that the negative influence are a strong driver of negative word of mouth for all consumers. That's the end of learning objective 4.
In terms of communication within groups and opinion leadership, it's super fundamental nowadays because of the thriving of KOL influencer. And the first thing I want to mention is opinion leadership. They are highly knowledgeable about specific product and activities, and they are seen as the go-to person for specific type of information. And I can give you a lot of example here. In terms of makeup, we have Jin Wei, we have J Makeup. In lifestyle, we have personalities, we have Premier, and in terms of technology, we have Windover. They have a defining characteristic of opinion leader is their enduring involvement with the product category, what leads to the expertise and the trust people have in their opinion. And there are other terms I want to mention is about market marvins. They are individuals who are general market influencer about viral products, play to shop, and so on. They are a little bit different from opinion leader because they have the huge impact on viral aspect. Okay, they're not only in makeup, but also they have in technology, personal, lifestyle, etc. A group similar to market marvin is going to call influential. Influential make up about 10% of the population, but because of the power of social network, they can influence the other 90%. And the influential are similar to internet market marvins, and they not only will significantly on online, but they also significantly on offline. And there are two models that I want to mention, which is super fundamental. The first one is mass communication information flow. The process of one person receiving information from the mass media or other sources and passing it on to others is known as the two-step flow of communication. Or we could say on the right hand side, the direct flow from the market activity direct to the relevant market segment. And the second way is the multi-step flow of communication involving opinion leaders for a particular product area who actively seek relevant information from the mass media as well as other sources. You can see that instead of going directly from the marketing activity to the market segment, they can take into account the opinion leader. And the last model is likelihood of seeking an opinion leader. You can see that when you have a good knowledge about the product, however, you don't want to purchase, you don't have the budget involvement, definitely you're going to have the low likelihood to buy the product. However, if you want to buy the product, you have that desire, you have that involvement, but you have completely no knowledge about that, you're going to have the high likelihood to buy the product. And in other cases, you're going to have the moderate likelihood to buy the product.
Okay, let's finish the chapter with the fusion of innovation. So first of all, we have to know what is innovation. Innovation is the new idea, practice, or the products perceived by individual or group, and it is characterized into 3 different groups, which are continuous innovation. It's the changes that are very little realized, and it presents less risk as the focus is on slight change or slight incremental upgrade that only add something or a new feature to an already existing product. For example, adding back antibacterial ingredient to solve. The second one is dynamically continuous innovation. This means we add more than one addition, but one characteristic that defines the product change. However, without changing consumption patterns. For example, the launch of liquid soap in place of the traditional bar shops. There's a change in an intrinsic feature of the product, but the same people consume it for the same purpose. And the last one is discontinuous innovation. It is a new product it launched and it is totally different from the previous one. And here we can see it is the disposable sanitizing tissues that we use on the body instead of the showers or that. Next one, we talk about diffusion. Diffusion process is the manner that innovation spread throughout the market. And when we talk about the factors that affect the spread of innovation, there's something like the type of group, type of decision, marketing effort, fulfillment of that need, compatibility, relative advantage, complexity, availability, trialability, and perceived risk. And when we talk about the characteristic of individuals who adopt an innovation at varying points in time, there are totally five stages. The first one is innovator, or we can call them the risk taker or lab males. The second one is the early adopter. The next one is the early maturity and late maturity. They account for the largest amount of people. The last one is laggard. And we're talking about the marketing strategy and the diffusion process. We have here the marketing segmentation. Since the consumers tend to adopt new product based on the characteristics mentioned, for me to segment and target different group of customers in order to engage as many right group at right time as possible. And when we talk about the diffusion enhancement strategy, farmers consider innovation from the target market's perspective. Having 10 diffusion determinants, company has different enhancement strategy to solve. So it is the end of our group presentation. Thank you very much for listening to us.